All right, welcome to Saturday's Warrior, the channel where we talk all things BYU, Big 12, and realignment. But of course, with this being the end of week one, college football, it's back. And that is what we are going to be talking about tonight, reacting to primarily the BYU SIU game, but also maybe a little bit around college football in general and the Big 12. So this is a new segment we are going to be doing each week now. This year, we posted our live reactions last year to the game and just posted it went, but we want to go live, get everyone else's reactions because we'd sit there and watch these games, especially these games that end late, and I would sit there and think, I wanted to watch something. A lot of the coverage after the games is a lot of generic coach speak, whatever, with the players' interviews, and I wanted live reactions. I thought, well, why not go live, give everyone else a chance to also go live, share their comments, give their thoughts on the game and what they saw. And so that is what we're going to do. So the whole point of this is to get everybody involved. So please join in and let us know in the comments what stood out to you about the game, your first reactions. As I said, we're going to be focused on the BYU game initially, and I guess the big question is that everybody has is, did BYU show what we needed to see in this first game to feel good about going into the rest of the season? Is this what we expected to see from our Cougars? And for me, as I sit there and think about, okay, what did we see? There was some good, some bad, some sloppy. It's a first game, but ultimately, BYU came out with a convincing win over an FCS opponent. So there's only so much we can glean from this. Now, SIU is a good FCS team, but still BYU should have come out and won big, and they did. There were moments when it felt like the score, BYU should have been up by a lot more than they really were. One time it was 14-0, and I was kind of looking at the stats and thought, how are we only up by 2 touchdowns right now? And so that is kind of the question is, even though BYU was able to win convincingly, the final score 41-13, just double checking that. And really my prediction was 41-17. So they actually outperformed what I predicted. But I'm just trying to think through how I feel. The game just ended, so I'm still digesting all of it. And I want to go pulling up here some of my thoughts. I made some notes here. I kind of started out taking a lot of notes early and then got just kind of sucked into the game as we went. But first of all, Jay Hill, obviously everyone's glad that he's doing a lot better and he seems to be okay. I think it's insane that he was at the game tonight. I know he wasn't really calling the defensive plays, but the fact that he showed up at all is just wild. My wife had some surgery on her shoulder on Thursday. So kind of the same time frame that Jay Hill underwent heart surgery, and just the pain meds alone, she can get up, but she's foggy, and so I'm just thinking, Jay Hill, I don't know what all he underwent, but I imagine there's going to be some recovery time, and the fact that he showed up is just insane, and I think that was obviously inspiring to his team, inspiring to the fans, and we all love to see it. Certainly a lot of dog in that guy. And, I think we saw more of that in the defense tonight. They were playing with a lot of energy. Going through here, like I said, there was some sloppiness. Had a couple fumbles. Fortunately, we recovered them early on with Jake. I just thought, oh man, if he can't start putting some things together soon, fans are going to get restless seeing him with near turnovers, right where he left off. That was the biggest knock against him. His biggest weakness was the turnovers and the unforced errors. So worried about that, but he settled in and things got a bit better in that regard. That drive with the may have been the opening drive. I'm trying to think now because I came in after the game had already started because it was the technical difficulties on I was watching ESPN Plus through Hulu. So I'm guessing that was probably the same for everybody. But that drive that they came in on, which by the way, somebody else I saw post this on Twitter, just the that screenshot of technical difficulties, please wait or whatever, and saying you wait all year for college football to start and your team's on, and they're saying that sorry, you can't see it. So yeah, that was a dreadful feeling. I was worried we weren't going to be able to catch it at all, but fortunately, it came on and worked just fine after that. But yeah, so it was a good drive. They moved the ball down the field, and they were even able to convert 2 fourth downs on it, which is great. They had confidence in their team. They went through and they executed, and ultimately were able to continue moving the ball. So they did what they needed to do. But also, that was a lot of plays to move down the field. Um, and, if that was one issue that we had last year is that we didn't have those big explosive plays, that they were these long methodical drives that Jake was putting together. And so it was a little concerning for me early on to think, okay, is this what we're going to have to continue to do? Now, he did ultimately open up and start launching some bombs, and obviously receivers came up big. And so I think that once we started seeing that, I think helped fans, at least help me settle in a little bit and say, okay, Jake's playing with confidence and he's got swag, and he's going to be able to hit some of those shots over the top with and with a receiver core like BYU has this year, you would expect them to go to that quite a bit. I've seen a few more hop on here tonight, so I just wanted to tell everybody, let us know in the comments what stood out to you about tonight. Did you see what you needed to see from BYU and what you were hoping to see in order, as we go into the rest of the season, to kind of feel like, okay, BYU has turned a corner, they've improved. Yes, we think this team can be bowl eligible. Let me know in the comments, and we'll take a look at those and discuss those. Your thoughts. So, yeah, and like I said, pretty good first offensive stand from the team. I thought they played very tough with a lot of energy, and something that stood out that they kept, you kept hearing from people, reporters from camp and from coaches and everybody. They were talking about Jack Kelly, and that was somebody that we saw all night. They called his name a bit, but where did he end? Let's see. Yeah. So 5 tackles, 3 solo, a half a tackle for a loss, but he was just all over the place. You could see him putting a lot of pressure on the defense. So it was exciting to kind of see that after hearing all the hype. Jacob Robinson with the interception, picking up where he left off. Love Jacob Robinson and what he brings. There was a bit of contact, a little bit of push, but 2 guys playing physical, and he went up. And just like his other interceptions last year, like he was going after those. Like he leapt for that ball. Now, I mean, it was wide open for him to go get, but he goes and gets those. They're not just gimmies like the one that Taggart dropped right in the middle. But so that was reassuring. Love seeing that. Another initial thought was Hinckley or Potty. Man, that guy is ripped. That was another thing I heard talked about in over the summer and preseason, was just how big he was. And he did have some very solid runs, and but man, he also set some really solid blocks, and giving Jake some room there to throw the ball. So I love that from Hinckley. It's really interesting. They used him a lot more, or they interchanged him and LJ a lot more. I really thought LJ would be the premier back, and he was, and especially as the game went on, you saw them leaning on him more and more. So it'd be interesting to see how that progresses throughout the season if they continue to kind of start the games with both of them, and then maybe ride one as the game goes on. Looking here, um, just some other thoughts, some other plays that stood out. Um, Shoot. Oh, yeah. SIU made a huge catch. This was early on in the game. I'm trying to make sense of my notes now, but it was really well defended. The the team thought that perhaps the ball had hit the ground, but that was just an incredible catch. Really well defended. I thought he was going to tip that and block that, but ultimately, super defense, but even better offense in that case. But let's see some other things that stood out to me. Special teams need some work. Let's see. The fumble they called here. Let me put this up here. Here, let's show this up here. So from Too Nice, it says the fumble they called incomplete should have been a fumble. Bad review. Okay, there were parts because I'm trying to remember now. It's all blending. I got behind because I had to put kids to bed tonight, and so I was fast forwarding, jumping across a lot. So you're talking about the fumble. Let me know, and I'll come back to that in a second as I try to remember that. The fumble and I was talking about special teams is the I mean in terms of the returns, both Marion and Parker, I think Parker twice, fumbled and muffed those returns a little bit, and a couple times they're able to almost turn them into something big. But uh, that's scary. You don't want to, that could be a big hindrance to the team and lose a lot of field position. And against a team like Southern Illinois, it's okay. We came out ahead, but I could really see that, against better and deeper teams that's going to put BYU in a tough position to start out possessions like that, or potentially turn it over. The other thing, trick plays did not work. They threw out a few, which I was really surprised to see here early on, which kind of tells me that one, they won't be afraid to call those throughout other games. But if those were the ones they were showing here against SIU, they've got to have some other trickier trick plays, I guess, up their sleeve, some other things that they're planning. These were a little bit more reminiscent of some that we've seen in past seasons. So kind of feels like if they're willing to pull that out tonight, those might not be the ones that we see later in those games where they're relying on those to make a big play, swing momentum. So okay, I'm coming back because I want to remember this comment here. The fumble they called incomplete should have been a fumble. Bad review. So there was the one I'm trying to think of. There was the one that he caught and he made a football move and then fumbled, and BYU recovered. And I do feel like that one was BYU, but you're saying it should have been a fumble. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, it's late for me here on the East Coast. Yes, it should have been a fumble, and BYU recovered it, and it should have been BYU possession. Ended up, fine, and BYU was still able to score, I believe, off of that drive. But yeah, that was a bad review. So fortunately, it was not one that determined the outcome of the game. So that was, again, it was against an FCS team. So and the score was up a lot. Okay, thank you for responding. The guy was holding the ball for like 5. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And he made a move completely. I mean, the ball moved a little in his arms, but he was going forward within it, and I believe he was shifting it. So, yeah, I'm completely with you. It was a bad call, and the fact that they reviewed it and still the call stood. But again, fortunately, it was one of those games where it didn't affect the outcome of the game. It wasn't a major impact on the result. And so, but yeah, definitely a bad call. I don't know. So what else did I see? I mean, Jake, let's get to Jake because I will say real quick, I was kind of disappointed we didn't get to see a little bit more of Gary Bohannon after there was so much talk about the two QBs and BYU was up by a lot. By the time Bohannon was in, they weren't going to pass at all. I would have liked to see him in early enough to allow him to pass a little bit, or perhaps he did get the one run where he got stuffed. But again, you're playing behind, uh, you know. That deeper in the bench, so you don't necessarily have the same quality of guys blocking for you there. But would have liked to see him get at least one run with some of the starters and see what he had. But I think that will happen this season. I think we will see more Bohannon. But Retzlaff, or should I say Ratzleff, like the commentator kept saying, Ratzleff. So, yeah, he was, let's see, 20 of 30 for 348 yards, average of 11.6 yards, and 3 touchdowns, and just some big plays. Now he also had some big misses, but Jake is a gamer, and he came out there and he wasn't afraid to let it rip, and he really connected on a few big time passes. And there's some other ones he'd like back, and some other ones that maybe were some miscommunication between him and the receivers. But overall, you got to be very impressed. Again, there was that early fumble that BYU recovered, but if that had gone another way, I think the crowd quickly sours on him. But I think he came back composed and was able to show everybody why he was QB1 and let us know that he worked a lot in the off season. And again, this is an FCS team, so I don't think we can put too much stock into everything we saw. But I think if we saw anything, that he looked more composed and more in control of the offense and what was going on. And so from that sense of the confidence level, I like it. Obviously, there's a bit of tuning up, but the offensive line was playing a bit better. I would say they were playing better. There were still some moments that it seems like they got completely overworked. And this, again, is an FCS team. This is not a small FCS team. This is, a pretty decent team that's brought in some guys that were at the P4 level. So, they do have a few guys with size and speed, but nonetheless, BYU, there shouldn't have been any of those possessions, and he did get sacked. I need a better stat page, but here in front of me, let's see. But he, and that's, that happens. It's a quality team, but I would have liked to see a little bit more from the offensive line, but definitely saw an improvement over last year. ETN looked, I would say for the most part, I did see a couple plays where I would have liked to see a little more effort, but he did seem a lot more comfortable in the left guard position, as opposed to kind of bouncing all over the place where he was and on the other side last year. So again, if you were on, let me know. Did you see what you wanted to see from BYU tonight as we move forward to the rest of the season? For me, I think, again, you can't put too much stock in what we see, but you have to feel good. This was certainly a much better performance than what we saw against Sam Houston last year. Felt like the team was much more cohesive, really came out with a lot of energy. The receivers were looking really good, and Retzlaff was connecting with them. It felt like, the run game and the fact that we were able to establish that really opened things up for the receivers, which I know is what A-Rod wants to do. He wants to really start with the run and make teams commit to loading the box and opening up things for the wide receivers. And that was something that the team couldn't do last year. And it took a little bit, but I mean, having Ropati, that big body running into guys, he lacks a little bit of the finesse, I think, that we see from Martin, but it was, I don't know. He's just a bruiser, just kind of going downhill, hitting guys hard. And I thought, man, they keep up at this pace. He's going to start wearing people down. And sure enough, I think that's exactly what happened. And by the end of the game, I mean, LJ Martin was just, running through people. So, but great performance from both of them. Let's see. So, total yards. So some of these stats I haven't even looked at all the way. So 348 passing to their 108. The rushing, oh wow. So they got to 123. We had 179 yards rushing. Would have liked to hit 200, I think, especially the way we were playing and near the end of the game where we were just running it a bit. So that would have liked to have seen that probably a little more. But overall, I think this is what we wanted to see. It's an opening game. There's some of those opening game jitters, and I think they got some of it out of their system. Hopefully they see some things that they can fine tune and they can come back, but certainly the energy was there. It looked like the organization was there a lot more. For a opening game, it felt like they had things, under control. They kind of knew what they were doing in the game plan and were able to carry it out. So that's what I came away with, the level of confidence. So they've had kind of this quiet confidence during the off season, and that came through, I think, in this game, instead of kind of talking a big game and then showing up and all of a sudden getting kind of punched in the mouth by Sam Houston and not knowing really how to regroup from that. And so certainly some things to work on. We'll learn a lot, I think, next week at SMU. And we'll see how that goes. So want to quickly talk about the rest of the Big 12 this week. Right now, we have Arizona, as we're recording this, in the second quarter is tied at 17 with Bronco Mendenhall's New Mexico team. So that is a bit of a surprise. I think there were some questions with that team losing some talent and with their coach coming in. But nonetheless, I think Arizona was pretty heavy favorite going into that. Arizona State, on the other hand, who some thought might be upset by Wyoming, is taking care of business. Penn State, the game with West Virginia was just, I was busy in the afternoon, so and it was delayed. I was only able to catch the first half, most of the first half. But West Virginia, early on, their defense looked solid, looked stout, but Penn State was just able to go over the top, and they weren't able to handle that. But yeah, they just got demolished after a game that was so hyped all week. And I was leaning towards Penn State to win that game, but I thought it was going to be closer than that, because I still think West Virginia has a chance to do some damage in the Big 12. Let's see. And then some other teams that were playing Missouri Valley teams this week. We had Oklahoma State versus South Dakota State, which was 44-20. So not all that close, but kind of a slow start for the Cowboys there in that one. Kansas State took care of business. That wasn't Iowa State against North Dakota, 21-3. Baylor looking very good, but that wasn't one. Let's see. What was the other one was, Colorado. And that one was just, I think, kind of what a lot of people expected. I expected that one to be a close one. So, that is a powerhouse, a legit powerhouse at the FCS level, and that Colorado, I don't know if a lot of people had too much faith in them coming into the season. So that was a good one. We'll see. Again, it's hard to put too much stock into these first games, so we'll see. Next week is going to be really telling. But for me, Texas Tech needing overtime to beat Albion Christian is just a rough way to start the year. Last year they started with a loss at Wyoming, and things kind of spiraled from there. So we'll see if they are able to pull out of that. UNLV handing Willie Fritz's Houston team a loss in his debut game, but I don't think that's too surprising. It's going to take a while to right that ship. So anyway, I don't know. I think for the most part, we saw kind of what we expected to see from across the Big 12. Texas Tech was a bit disappointment, but I don't know. And then West Virginia, that one was, even if they lost, I think people want to see a better showing from them, and we'll see what happens with Arizona. But again, pretty stoked about BYU this season. I'm just happy it's back, and that to have college football back in our lives and to have a team that's looks at least at this point in the game, which is all you can ask, is come out there and put up some points, have solid defensive play, and learn some things, improve for next week, and we'll see what they do against SMU. I'm here just trying to glimpse what's going on with the women's soccer game. Stinks when those are at the same time as football, because our women's soccer need the support. They're down right now to Utah State, so bummer for them. But all in all, pretty happy. And please let me know in the comments again, did you see what you wanted to see from BYU tonight against SIU? Was that the kind of performance you hoped to see, you expected to see? And what insights, what can we learn from the team? Are we seeing BYU turn the corner, or was this just an inferior opponent that BYU was able to take advantage of? And what things do you think that the team needs to improve upon the most as we go forward in the season, especially if we want to get to a bowl game again? So I would say overall, we have to feel at least relieved, because we didn't see any of the terrible, terrible stuff like we saw in, everyone's referring to those other years when we started off really poorly, like Portland State and Sam Houston, when those were signs of things to come. Again, just because you play pretty well in a game like this does not necessarily mean we'll do well against tougher opponents, even in SMU or Wyoming. But I think it is, we certainly beat the betting lines, which I don't know where they ended, but they were at least at one point down to 14. So BYU covered with plenty of room. So you got to feel good about that, at least, to kind of shut some people up. And we'll see how the lines change going into some of these other games throughout the rest of the season. But anyway, also, how do you feel about Retzlaff starting at QB? Do you feel like it should have been him? It should have been Bohannon? And do you think, after watching his performance tonight, New Mexico's up over Arizona, after seeing his performance against or his performance tonight versus how his 4 games last year and what you saw there, did you see enough from him to feel a little bit more comfortable with him taking the reins for the team? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious to know how other people are feeling. I felt like, now, is he going to be a top level rated quarterback? Probably not, but he certainly showed up tonight and showed that he can make those big throws, and and if he can eliminate those errors, which he mostly did tonight, that we mentioned the one near fumble. I think it was recorded even as a fumble, but we recovered. If we're able to eliminate those, and that he can at least be good, and we showed that he can run, and he's mobile enough and be able to keep the defenses honest there, and he can go over the top. I feel confident that if the O-line can hold up for him, that we can do. BYU will be in a lot of these games, and definitely has a chance to go bowl eligibility, or to go bowling and be bowl eligible. So anyway, let me know in the comments and how you're feeling after this game one. Again, this is a segment. This is my first time doing this live afterwards, but we hope to be doing this each week after the game, especially these later games. It's a little bit easier. It's harder during the day, but I think at the end of Saturday, either way, we'll come on and do a live stream and get your feedback. Come on and put comments. We'll pull them up and we'll discuss right away, because I know everyone has a lot of thoughts that right after the game that we want to share, we want to talk about. So that's what this is all about, bringing people together to discuss it. Also throughout the week, earlier on in the weeks, we'll be Adam will be on with me, and we are going to kind of break down some of our thoughts from the past week, as well as look ahead to the upcoming week and matchup. And then each week, I'm got a lineup of guests to come on to talk about the opponent and a segment called "Know the Foe," or "Know Your Foe." And so this last week we had Luke Martin, who's the voice of SIU football, which was super awesome, really cool, great guy, and great interview, and a really good discussion. And so want to continue to have, and I've got getting people lined up to do that throughout the season. So be sure to like this video, but be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can catch those videos as we put them out each week, and then these segments as well as we get our reactions. And actually, let me know too in the comments. I'm trying to come up with a name for this. Instant reactions, whatever. I was even thinking, it's Saturday's Warrior, so maybe like Saturday's Night Fever or something. We'll go through. I don't know. I'm workshopping it still, but feel free to give me some ideas there in the comments section. Help me work through it, and we'll get a segment name put together. But anyway, thank you for everybody that did join me, and thanks for those comments, and appreciate it. Again, be sure to subscribe to the channel and come back next week so we can break down what is hopefully a win over SMU and getting BYU even one game closer to bowl eligibility. And as always, go Cougs. If I could just find the end stream button. Here we go. Bye.